The human heart is much more than an efficient pump that sustains life. Research suggests the heart is also an access point to a source of wisdom and intelligence that we can call upon to live our lives with more balance, greater creativity, and enhanced intuitive capacities. All of these are important for increasing personal effectiveness, improving health and relationships, and achieving greater fulfillment. We now have a much deeper scientific understanding that explains how and why heart activity affects mental clarity, creativity, emotional balance, intuition, and personal effectiveness. The heart is, in fact, a highly complex information processing center with its own functional brain, commonly called the heart brain, that communicates with and influences the cranial brain via the nervous system, hormonal system, and other pathways. These influences affect brain function and most of the body's major organs and plays an important role in mental and emotional experience and the quality of our lives. The heart is truly the center of our being, giving us an evolutionary edge to transcend upcoming challenges in our daily lives. The more self-aware we become about who we truly are, the less we fear about circumstances, events unfolding around us, changes that are affecting how humans live and navigate through this existence of our evolution. We now know certain truths and have learned or are still learning mastery over our emotions. Our hearts really do tell us how capable we are to adapt and evolve regardless of these changes. The deep truth of this existence is all about loving ourselves and loving one another, to witness our joy, our progress, and our unique perspectives as we open to the many possibilities without resistance and fear of the unknowns. All these things that are available to us begin in the human heart, where our high level of mastery comes from. We can actually harmonize the neural network in the brain and the neural network in the heart. We are the only life form that we know of that's actually able to do this. We realize we need not accept everything we hear as truth. By remaining objective, we need not dismiss anything. This discussion will explore the hidden cohesiveness of human biology and soul. We have unlimited capacities to create anything we desire, and the science is beginning to back this up. Join us. Awesome, awesome, everyone. Welcome to Andromeda 7, your celestial gateway, everyone. It's good to see you all. We have a beautiful panel tonight. Teresa D'Antone next to me on my right. We have Sophia. Good to see her. She's been gone a while, but she's just been a busy bee. She's around. Dalibor Suki, good to see you as well. And Brian, Grandpa Brian. Welcome, everyone. Boy, do we have a show for you tonight. This is a lot went into this show. There's a lot of research that was done. Teresa and Dalibor are taking the lead tonight. They're going to be discussing the biology and divinity and bringing the two together. And not only that, the cohesiveness of the heart and the brain and how they work together. So this is quite fascinating, everyone. No time limits here. This is going to be a great discussion, and we're really looking forward to it. Let's go ahead and acknowledge chat real quick. Everyone that's here, thank you so much for being here. Scotty Boy, it's good to see you as always. Love seeing you. Black Raven, good to see you. Let's see, Chloe's Crystals, good to see you. Chloe, put your link in there if you want. Sounds good. We've got Lucky Stone. Always a pleasure, Lucky. I love seeing you here. Thank you so much for your support and your love. We appreciate it. Elizabeth Bauer, very good to see you, my dear. Thank you for popping in. Always a pleasure. Let's see, who else do we have? I'm scrolling. I'm doing it here. I think that's about everybody for now. they'll start coming in. Regine Huddleston, thank you. It's a pleasure to see you tonight. You betcha. Awesome. All right. Well, I will send it over to Teresa. We're really looking forward to this, Teresa. So the floor is yours, my dear.
Oh, well, thank you. And thanks for that great introduction video, by the way.
Oh, thank
You
you.
really pulled that together nicely, and you did a great job of outlining the overview for everything that we're going to be discussing.
Thank you very
You,
much.
you really got into that, and I love the graphics too.
Yeah, I enjoy making those videos. It's a labor of love.
They fit right in with the theme. So
yeah, gives you a good
I hope
idea what we're going to talk about, huh?
it sure does. Yeah, it sure
Thank you.
does. And I just want to say to Lucky, I mentioned it in here, but for those of you who don't know, Lucky had a car accident, totaled the car. He's fine. He had to search and drive a long way, but he got the most beautiful car out of the whole thing. So
sometimes
Lucky
things happen that way. Yeah.
Lucky got lucky.
Mm-hmm.
So very happy for you.
The universe said it's time for you to have a new car. And here you go.
Yeah, that's what happened with me. I mean,
Yeah.
I needed something, and the universe said, "We'll take your car."
Yeah.
And we'll give you the money, and that'll help you in another way. So yeah, the universe has interesting ways of doing things. Anyway, thank you, Dalibor, for stepping up tonight. Right up your alley, Mr. Science. You know, folks,
It's interesting that my car's been in the shop for the past week.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So you'll be getting that back soon, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Well, folks, keep in mind tonight something. I think it's important to keep this in the back of your mind and to actually keep it in your heart while we're talking about this, because this is a subject we really need to keep coming back around and around on. We need to keep addressing it, bringing it up to the surface, and the more channels that do this, the better, in many different ways possible. Because out of sight, out of you don't think about it. And human biology and the physiology of the human being is miraculous in of itself. It's divine. And the science that now is starting to back it up more and more and more, the unseen aspects of our physiology and our biology as it pertains to the syncing up with, our soul and our very spiritual being with our human heart. And the heart's role in everything is so much more than I thought. I always thought it was the brain that was in charge of everything. And so science is beginning to show how much the heart plays a role. And it's starting to sync up with what we understand with our spiritual development too. So I had a download from Lori, and I both have been in communication with our group, our angels and masters, and their message tonight is our sincere hope is that you will allow your hearts to lead you tonight in a fresh, renewed understanding and appreciation of your own Godhead within, your divinity, your personal power. Experience how awesome and limitless we truly are, in accordance with all that we have created and are still capable of creating and transforming from within. That's their message tonight, is when you take a look at all the science behind this and how our hearts and brains function, you'll get a better appreciation of just how fantastic and beautiful the human being is, and the whole relationship between spirit and the human. Okay, so I guess I should bring up. Did anybody else want to add that to the opening there? Anything you want to cover?
I did. Okay, go ahead, Dalibor. Go ahead.
Well, I would say, since we're talking about the heart, I guess it should be a heartfelt discussion, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, most definitely.
Full of heart and soul.
So We are talking about the heart tonight, and I did connect with Saint Germain, and he wanted to express and this was kind of a shock to me. I wasn't aware of this information, so I thought I'd share it with you really quick before we get into your slides, Teresa, if that's okay with you.
Yes, I was
Okay.
hoping you would.
Okay, no problem. It's a very short little thing, but I'll read it to you. He said, I would like to talk about why we love. We are not taught to love. So when you're in the etheric realms and you're a spirit, in the very beginning of your evolution of becoming a physical being, you're not taught how to love. You have to come to the earth school or something similar to an earth school. There are many earth schools to learn how to love. And we must learn how. The creator is you, and we are on a path to achieving love. So, in essence, we learn our lessons and evolve into love. So now you know the truth. Love is learned. Be the light and be the love. Nothing else can be. You are. And that's from Saint Germain. That was interesting. I had no idea that we
Yeah.
had to learn how to love. That's why we have such hard lessons in this life, is so that you learn these skills, and then you take that to the etheric realms, and then that spread throughout the etheric realms. So that was fascinating for me, and that was a little bit of a twist for me to like grasp that, because I thought everything is love in the etheric realms, but it's something that's learned and then brought back. That's
So,
my understanding through Saint
yeah,
Germain. Take it for
yeah,
what it's worth.
and he
Mhm.
also said it's an evolutionary process,
Exactly.
and because I had a hard time with this as well, it was
Hmm.
like a flip of the script for me.
Yeah.
And he went on to explain it's an evolutionary process. It's everybody's going to go, oh, you think you're better than God? You taught God how to feel. Well, it's consciousness and awareness is just that. It
Hmm.
doesn't know anything else until
It
it
knows joy
experiences
and
it.
bliss. It doesn't know love at that point. It has to come
Anything.
and learn.
It
Yeah.
it knows maybe how
True.
to be at peace. At peace,
Yeah.
it need joyful bliss. Bliss. But it hasn't learned the lessons yet because it didn't create us yet because we weren't the reflections of it yet.
Yeah. And you have to come
So
here to learn the emotions. So
right.
love is an
So
emotion.
and you're going to find out we have a transmitter. We have a
Hmm.
neural network in our system that allows us to transmit back to all that is. So, all
Yes.
right, let's move on.
Let's do it.
So let me bring up the share screen because I have a couple slides here to back us up while we're talking. And I'm just going to get in here and grab it real quick.
Okay. Where we lost your volume, your voice. Okay, there you are. There you
I'm
are.
just doing my thing.
Yep.
And I'm selecting a tab entire screen.
Okay,
And
you're
here
gonna
we
have to
go.
screen share. Yeah, you'll have to screen share. That's not here.
I'm doing it right now.
Gotcha.
So here we go. There
There
we
we
go.
go. You got. Whoop,
And
we
yep.
are. Yep, we're good.
All right. Now I have to minimize Vine. I won't be able to see the chat, y'all. So
Oh God,
let's
what
see.
will you do?
Okay, so I minimized the. Okay, now I'm going to go into my bio folder.
Mm-hmm.
Bear with me, folks. I'm clicking on it, but it isn't doing anything.
Double
So
click.
hang on.
There
There we
it is.
go. And one up on the size.
Yep.
And I will
Full screen,
expand.
lower right. You got it.
Boom.
You got it.
We
Great
got
job,
it.
Teresa. Great job.
All right, I can't see you all, so I can't see your facial responses. So I have to go until somebody. You'll have to speak up. I won't even be able to see you flap your hands to tell me to shush. Okay. All right. So tonight we're talking about heart-brain coherence, and you may have heard this terminology before from people like Bruce Lipton, Greg Braden. I think Dalibor, you've mentioned a couple that are really hot on this subject. out there on YouTube land, and they've really been making great headway in getting the message out there and getting the information about this science out there to people.
Yeah, Dan
But
Winter.
Dan Winter, right? He's a numerology, isn't he? Numerologist.
Sacred
Um,
geometry.
okay, all right. Well, the whole idea behind this is that heart rhythms directly affect brain centers involved in foresight, decision making, social awareness, and our ability to self-regulate. And the diagram is showing you that when we are when we're coherent, when we're aware, coherent, and in control, and we can function, the brain has a very smooth amplitude. It has a very smooth frequency. But when we're out of sync with our emotions, when we're out of sync with our purpose, when we're confused or upset or angry, and the heartbeat changes and the heart gets affected, then there isn't coherence between the heart and the brain. And you can see on the left-hand side, it's showing how our heart, we know when you have that sensation of your heart racing, or you're going to get anxiety and it tightens up, or you're angry and it just, you feels like there's this like a stab in your chest, or someone's hurt you emotionally or physically. That jolt changes that whole vibration within the heart, and the heart is transmitting constantly to the brain. And so they're out of sync. There is no coherence. And so we're going to show you how this communication is actually working. Whoops, took me all the way to the very end. I didn't do anything. That's funny. Hang on a minute. Gotta take it back. Sorry. Okay. Dalibor,
Yes.
you can hear me? Okay. So the first thing that we wanted to cover here is about DNA, the DNA molecule encoding information. There was a gentleman by the name of Francis Harry Compton Crick. So some of
Yeah.
you may have heard of this guy, an English molecular biologist known for mapping out the genome as early as 1957. So he gave a lecture in London with the results, and he came out with this idea that the order of the bases of the gene corresponds to the order of amino acids that make up a protein. So he did this whole sequence hypothesis. Remember, Dalibor? So he was the one that discovered that there's actually code within our nucleotide bases, and that the ones and zeros are actually similar to a computer code
No.
because they give you a
No.
specific arrangement. Yeah,
No.
what did you get out of that?
No. No. There are 4 amino acids that make up DNA code. 4
Right?
amino acids. Computer code consists of just zeros and ones. It's binary, whereas this is quaternary. In other words, it uses
Right, right.
four different sort of letters, so to speak. A, C, T, and G. Adenine, cytosine, guanine, and tyrosine. So, and based
Right.
on the combinations of like individual pairs, like A and C, A and T, A and G, and their sequence determines the code. So it's
Right.
a bit different than computer code, but similar.
But he didn't know back then in the 1930s and 1950s, we were just starting to get into
Hmm.
some of the, they didn't know about the more advanced coding. But what he did notice, and what was important here, is that he felt it was like a language. Let's see if I can
It
see what
is.
his quote is.
It
The
is,
sequence, go ahead.
and it consists of 4 letters.
Mm-hmm.
It's a 4-letter language. Now, if you expand that, what does tetragrammaton means? It literally means a 4-letter word. Tetragrammaton is the name of God because it consists of 4
Yeah,
letters: Yod, Hey, Vav, and Hey final.
right. Yeah. He also said that it's like he described it like a language system deep within our own internal, it's more than just like computer type code. It's more of it's the system where you can, once you start experiencing those emotions, it allows you to express things in a certain way. It's
Hmm.
what animates us within our
Yeah,
own DNA.
everything in our body is made of amino acids. Although we only have 20 different amino acids that the body utilizes to form into proteins. But since these can be combined in like a near infinite number of ways, the number of actual proteins that the body has and makes on its own is about 22,000 out of just those 20 basic amino
Yeah,
acids,
yeah,
four of which are used in just the DNA.
yeah. Now, let me get on to this next one. The DNA, um, this is interesting. This is what you're seeing here is a picture of a neuron. And a neuron is like any other cell with one exception. The neuron is specifically related, or we thought was significant, particularly related to the brain cells. Okay. Early on, we didn't know that there's also these neuron cells that have brain function also found within the human heart. So all along, we thought these are very specialized cells only in the brain. So the brain controls everything. The brain sends signals to the rest of the body and all the systems in our body. But the truth of the matter is these neurons are also in the human heart. They're not in most other organs. Is that right, Delbar?
Yes, this is correct.
Okay,
The heart has its own ganglion,
right?
that's like sort of like a mini brain that it uses to hook up with the heart through the vagus nerve,
Okay.
among other parasympathetic nerves that connect through the spinal cord to the brain.
So that's the
Mm-hmm.
connection between the heart and the brain is that through the neurons. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. See, the neurons have these little axons that they call coming off of them. And at the end of these axons are these dendrites, these very teeny tiny dendrites. And in psychology, when we first learned how to apply medication to help mental patients, we introduced chemicals that would be injected and would flow into the synaptic gaps between these neurons so that when they fired, we could slow them down or speed them up. Especially if we had a person who was extremely agitated, they would give them dopamine, and that would go into the gap, into the fluid between the two. So there is a fluid, think of it like a battery acid between the two neurons, so that when they connect and fire, they're transmitting electrical energy from one to the other. And that's how our nerves communicate throughout our body with different muscle tissues and different systems. So the average human body has about 50 trillion cells, and any one of those cells has an electrical potential of about 0.07 volts
Hmm.
per cell. Right? Now that sounds like a real teeny tiny amount. But when you consider the fact that you've got 50 trillion of these cells, just do the multiplication. And that's how
Hmm.
much electrical potential is in our human body.
And also, if you look at the axon of the neuron, you'll notice that it looks a lot like a lightning bolt. Uh, because why? Because lightning tends to travel along the path of least resistance. So too do the neurons form connections where it's easiest for them to do so. So they'll
Mm-hmm.
branch out and make efficient use of uh, of
Right.
their capabilities and hook up with as many other neurons as they can. And that's why it looks like either the roots of a tree or a lightning bolt.
Kind of reminds me
Exactly.
of the mycelium.
That too. Yeah.
Hmm.
That too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Now you look at this, these are the different types of neurons. Unipolar, bipolar, multipolar, pyramidal. I can't even pronounce Purkinje. I'm not sure what that one is, but that looks like a tree. That really does look like a tree on the far right on the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
But these specific neurons, and I'm not going to get into take a course in just all of that, but they have different functions. But notice their geometric shapes. There's a little sacred geometry going on here. You see, and the each one of those branches represents dendrites with these electrical impulses. So it's like electrical programming. These different circuits, I'm going to call them circuits. Neurons are like electrical circuits. What would it mean if we could harness that? What would it mean if we could apply that to our healing and to our intuition or to the regeneration of cells in our own bodies?
If you can compare them actually to transistors. Transistors, what they do is they basically modulate electrical signals, and a transistor only has 3 connectors. That is a base, a collector, and an emitter.
Right.
That's it. Whereas this is a hell of a lot more complicated than transistors, and transistors make up our modern computers. There's just millions and millions of them. That's all.
Oh, right. Greg Braden said every cell in our body functions as a transistor, a resistor, and a capacitor. It stores and releases information, and it's a photon generator. And you mentioned something about that, didn't you? You put them all together, and what did you find out?
Well, when you put them all together, when you put a capacitor, a transistor, and a coil together, you get a frequency generator. You get a resonator, right? So it just by creating something like that, you're creating a circuit that generates a specific frequency, and that frequency is modulatable if you can modulate any one of those components.
Boom. Now, somebody created us and did all this, and we're the ones creating the systems that you see around. We're the ones that are communicating what an electric circuit is. How is it that we know what electricity is, and how is it that we knew how to implement electrical systems? It's because we're copying our own template, are we not?
Yeah. Well, computers are a lot like us because we, the humans, designed them. That's why.
Exactly.
Yep.
So we are sending light, and that light is information. That's how we send out electricity outside of our bodies. It's a light signal. So we're sending light and information to an energy field around us, and we are receiving light and information from the sun and other individuals. This has been confirmed by medical people and scientists. They're saying there is something outside of us that's connecting all of this together. They're aware of a source of energy that can't be seen, that can't be measured in the body, and they know that the dendrites are the little antennae inside of these brain-type cells. And here is a picture. It was taken about 5 years ago, and I think they enhanced it 3 years ago. The first ever 3D map of the heart's nervous system. And what they're showing here is in this upper heart up here is a male heart, and these yellow dyes are showing all of the neurons in the human heart. So these are neurons in the heart. Do I need to make this bigger, Lori, or is it okay?
No, you're fine. You're doing just fine.
And a female heart down below shows these pink masses. You see this pink gathering? It's dispersed in a slightly different pattern than the male up here in yellow, and there's fewer of them, but they are neurons. This is the brain, the heart's brain in a female, and this is the heart's brain in a male. So they were getting 2 different slices of this and being able to point it out to you so that you could see how these neurons are clustered in such a way that they create teeny tiny little brains in your heart.
What's interesting to me is Who knew there was a difference between a male and a female heart? I didn't know that.
Me either.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah, I
fascinating.
didn't either. Yeah.
Now, we might be different in our energies in terms of how we express our emotions and our energies and how we do things physically
Mhm.
through the muscular system, but to know that the hearts are different. They process information. Well, men are from Mars, women are from Venus.
Yeah.
Here's
Hmm.
your physical proof of that, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just being funny, but
hmm
but then again, I
There
could be
is a
right.
difference. Yeah.
Yeah, there is a
And
difference.
it's
Yeah.
stems in the heart.
hmm Now, it doesn't mean that you can equate, or maybe you can, but I don't think that it means that men are more emotional than women. If anything, this proves that women, if you're going to do it based on emotion and say, oh, well, I have a bigger cluster than you, therefore I'm stronger than you. Yeah. Well, that also means you have more emotion than I do, right? Maybe it means you have more fear or more anger and I'm more gentle because I have less. You can't do that kind of comparison yet. So I wouldn't go
hmm
there, but
hmm
people are doing that. And it's like, no, don't go there. Don't try to classify things from that perspective. If anything, people always say women can't control their emotions. They're the emotional ones. They wear them on their sleeve. But I think this has more to do with physical. What do you think, Lori? The fact that it's more massive and more antennae and more communication.
Who knows? I honestly don't have any clue. Um,
Well, if you
there's an
look at
op.
energy from just a
hmm
spiritual perspective, and
hmm
you look at the divine masculine and you look at the divine feminine, what are we always told? We're told that we need the masculine to balance out the feminine, and we need the feminine to help balance out the masculine. So when two hearts come together as a pair, and you have one that has more masculine energy in its heart and one that has more feminine energy, then it kind of makes sense that division we did, that soul division we did to make the difference in the sexes. This is showing you how that harmony, how that heart brain balance works.
Well, to me, it just indicates that the excess neurons in the heart are maybe complicated by fewer neurons in the brain.
Yeah, it could be.
You
Yeah.
mean just a matter of wiring, so to speak?
Hmm. Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
makes
because the
sense.
brain and the heart, they function as a system, right?
hmm
Mm-hmm.
I would agree.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Anyway, fascinating, isn't that?
hmm
So now this is taking a neuron, and it's taking a neuron that's in the body, close to the brain. So this is one of the brain's neurons, and they did another image to show the different wires extending from the neuron. And the neuron here is in red. This whole piece is red. Kind of looks a little bit like the heart in a way, but it's not. It's a neuron. And these axons coming off are the red tendrils that you see. And at the end are these dendrites. Up here in this corner is another teeny tiny red neuron. You see that?
Mm-hmm.
So the microscope, it's showing wires extending from all the different colored neurons interacting with a special type of neuron. This is called an interneuron. It's in the human cerebral cortex. The interneuron has a hair-like antenna called a primary cilium. That's what this is right here, a primary
hmm
cilium coming off of it. And it's hidden within all of this meshwork, okay? So it's sitting in there. Imagine opening a control panel, in your apartment building or in your house, and there's all these wires going every which way. And in the middle is this object, and you don't know quite what it is, but it's like got a huge function. Don't screw with it, right? Same thing here. You have this very special interneuron, and what it does is it's like a connector between one neuron and the other. So just like you have a computer wire and you have a connector, male to female connector, that's what this is doing. It's connecting these circuits. So there's your circuit right there in your own system. Kind of makes you feel like a little bit like a cyborg, doesn't it? Here's a bigger picture of it. See it? Hanging right in here. Now this accent is also coming out, and they're showing a blow up here of how this one comes across. But there's all these other different types of neurons, not neurons, dendrites that are giving out information to different body parts. But they're getting their signals from these special interneurons. That's what I think is going on. Dalvor, you want to add anything to that?
No. No.
Okay. So that shows how the circuit is completed. And then this is just an artist's rendition of dendrites and how branch-like they are. But you see, can you all see these things here? They look like little little spike machines. All of these spikes that you'll find at the end of these neurons are your actual antenna. Okay? So the functions of the antenna down here, we now know, says scientists, that neurons are biological antennas. We do not store memories in our brain. Hold on to your pants, people. We do not store memories in the brain. We don't store memories of our loved ones in the neurons in our brain either. The neurons are the antenna that tune to a very specific place, a vibratory space of a field that scientists now know connects all things together. But there is a field, it says a CERN. Now this is a guy from CERN Laboratories in Switzerland, Geneva, Switzerland. He's working with the conducting super collider. And he says this: there's a field that underlines all of existence, a subtle energy field where information is stored in that field. Our neurons are antennae that tune into very specific places within that field. DNA does the same thing in our bodies. But they're admitting that there is a subtle energy field where information of everything, all information about us is stored in that field, and we have the antenna to communicate in specific places within that field to get what we need. They just can't prove it.
Teresa, I'm going to interrupt you really quick. We have a comment. I'd like you to address it if you would.
Okay.
So Carol's asking, so if I may ask, what is the point of the biology class?
What is the point of the biology class? Is to introduce concepts to people so that they can understand what the human body has really been designed to do, and that the human body is the transport vehicle and vessel of our spirit. And a lot of people don't get that. And this shows the science behind it, and it shows the intent that we did when we went about creating who we are, and why why it's so important to show it is to show the beauty of our own divinity, to show that the heart has more of a role than we think it does in just being a beating organism to help keep our body alive, that it actually transmits information into a unified energetic field of the one, of the all that connects everyone and everything. So people that are out there saying, you light workers and spiritual new age people are full of woo-woo, look again. We're anything but woo-woo. We're hard evidence. We are the physical evidence. We are the smoking gun that people that are non-spiritual are always asking us to prove. The proof is in who we are. The proof is in how we designed ourselves. The proof is in how we function. And so that's the purpose of tonight's program, was to make that link. Go ahead, Delbor.
Thank you.
The analogy here would be to the computer, right? Because the data, or the soul of that computer, the data, that's actually just the bookmarks and the tabs that you have open and stuff like that you use to access the internet. All that information that you're accessing is somewhere out in the field. very little of it is actually stored in your own computer, unless it's, of
Right.
course, self-generated, in which case it comes from a place outside the computer, right? The computer is
Hmm.
just the hardware that's used to access that information and present it into a form that other computers can understand. And that
Right.
information either comes from your brain or other people's brains that have put it down on computer somewhere
Right.
else. And the analogy here between the brain and the heart would be like the central processing unit, which is like the main processing unit, and the GPU, the graphical processing unit, which can also, under certain situations, take over some of the functions of the central processing unit.
Right. Exactly. Now, the folks that are trying to get this information out on a regular basis are like, look, we need our biology to connect to the information in that field. We need our biology to connect. Divinity is part of that information. Our intuition, our creativity, what some call higher self. So when we're praying or when we're meditating, our physical body, our temple, the vessel of our soul, um, it holds the antenna that we are communicating with, that part, that place in the field where many have come before us and are also communicating with that place in the field, meaning there are ascended masters out there tapping into that energy field that have come before us that have knowledge to help us. There are aspects of our higher self, former lives, if you will, other characters from other scenarios that or other realities that we have created. The Akashic record is what they're talking about. And so that this is our physiology is what our physiology as humans enables us to keep that spiritual connection alive. Okay, hope that helped. So, Rudolf Steiner, father of anthroposophy, right? Founder of anthroposophy, very much involved in the Theosophical Society back in the what 1700s. He
No, late
Eight,
1800s.
late
1800s, late
1800s.
18.
Thank you. He he said Plato was missing a Platonic solid. He said there's a seven-sided shape out there somewhere. If something has seven sides, it's not a cube or a tetrahedron or an octahedron. So this man, Dr. Chester, found a way to draw it. He found a way to create that seven-sided figure. And when he did, he called it a chestahedron. And the reason he called it a chestahedron is because it sits at a 30-degree angle. If you put it into a box, it fits into a square box at a 30-degree angle off center, just like the human heart. And he finds out that through, was it him or Crick that was unfolding the heart, Dalibor? Um,
I'm not sure who did that, but when they unfolded it, they discovered that you could fold it out into a flat plane. But the
right.
most interesting thing is that if you spin this in a bottle of water, it generates two counter-rotating vortices of water.
Right.
Wow.
Right. Yeah, it does. It spins, and the more it spins, the more energy it creates. And so, if it, they're saying that this is when people are thinking of the heart valves opening and closing. That's what they're really doing. Is you have two opposite open and close, and it actually creates an energetic vortex within your chest, which is part of that magnetic field and the toroidal field that Lori covered on one of our other programs. So there's two things going on a physical level and also on a spiritual level are these spinning motion that creates a magnetic energy field, which is important for healing. This is how the heart heals. We're going to find out through this vortex. So if we go over here to Paco Torrent Wasp, he's the one that automatically unfolded many, many hearts. I think he's done over 500 or more of these hearts. And he said the heart is really not a pump. It's really a coiled helix composed of 60-degree overlapping inner and outer spiral coils that aim at either the apex or the base. But he did about 1,000 hearts, okay? So it's one singular muscular band folded over and over and over on itself in a spiraling pattern. And he said it is a vortex of tissue. Here you go. There's the vortex again, Dalibor. He said
Yeah.
it's a vortex of tissue. It's not a pump. It's a vortex machine. So he described it as a vortex machine. So not only do you have the seven-sided figure, but now we have the that's the geometry behind it. But here's the physicality of it. What were you going to say, something, Dalibor?
Well, yeah, as Dr. Tom Cohen said, he said that the heart is not a pump, that the heart is actually just a frequency generator, that the lungs are the actual pump.
Right, right.
He even wrote a book
Um,
by that name, The Heart is Not a Pump.
Interesting.
isn't that now? You need water. You need something to a medium for this. Okay, so it was once thought that matter could only exist in three states: fluid, solid, or gas. And water can exist as liquid, ice, and vapor. Your human cells, the human cells are 70% water, and most are not in any of these three states. What they are in, what we've recently learned, is that with water there's a fourth state. It's called the plasma state. You've heard of this, or the gel state, or structured water. That's what's in our cells, and this is what pushes the blood through the veins in the vascular system. So now we're understanding that we're fueled by infrared energy from its environment, meaning the sun, right? The water in our body becomes an electrical propulsion system, and a certain percentage of the water in our body becomes structured water, and then the rest remains normal liquid or bulk water. But the structured water is right in here. It's showing it being forced through this vortex. So the water in our cells creates that ability for the heart vortex to operate, you see. It pushes all those materials through our venous system and takes nutrients to our body.
Kind of the fuel, huh?
The fuel. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and one of the characteristics of structured water is the hydrogen atom has a different, it's different than normal hydrogen atoms in that the electron orbits closer to that hydrogen atom's core or nucleus.
Right.
So essentially what we are is actual cyborgs, because when we eat food, we're actually eating electrons that ultimately come from the sun. The electrons come to the plant, an animal eats the plant, we eat the animal, and so we get the electrons into our body that indirectly come directly from the sun. So
Right. We are the cyborgs. We create. I mean, that's
we
what
are the cyborgs, yeah.
That's how we you know, think about it, because we experimented with every different kind of life form you could think of to come up with this container, and then we plugged it with the right circuitry to function the way we need to function.
Yeah.
It's kind of amazing
it's-
what we've done.
And these cells that make up our bodies are, in a sense, self-replicating, right? They multiply by splitting in half, right?
Exactly.
And each one of them has a copy of the same program to do the same thing as the previous cell did, and that's how
Right.
the body stays alive.
Right. So anyway, so supposedly this propulsion system will run indefinitely so long as it stays charged. And the way that you charge it is with the Earth's electromagnetic field of infrared energy and positive thought. You go, are you kidding? There was a man by the name of Dr. Masaru Emoto, E-M-O-T-O, Masaru Emoto. And he has demonstrated that water, when exposed to loving human words and thoughts, is transformed into its natural hexagonal shape. That was news to me. I knew about particles of dirt and sand and granules of stone being able to change their configuration with sound frequency, but this is water responding to human emotions. It becomes structured at a molecular level based on your positive intent. He found that the water exposed to positive words and intentions formed beautiful, symmetrical, crystalline structures. When the water was frozen, while water exposed to negative words and intentions formed disorganized, asymmetrical structures. So here
Hmm.
you're showing thank you, wisdom, truth, eternal. It's on the top. Wisdom looks like truth looks like a snowflake. Angel, if you're sending an intent to connect with angel, you get this ring, looks like a halo. I love you is very close to truth. You see the patterns of truth and I love you? Because love is truth, love is truth. Peace, there's peace, falls more in alignment with eternal peace, and there's very similar. Look what happens though to these shapes when you say you fool, or you make me sick. You're evil, or I'm doing acts of evil, or I have intents of doing acts of evil, or what you consider evil. Use a different word. Acts of harm, if I intend to harm. Polluted water before prayer. Look at the polluted water before prayer. Polluted water after prayer. So it loses its shape, doesn't it?
Yeah, hang on just a second. Sophia has a question for you.
Yep, go ahead. Thank you.
Well, it's actually more of a comment. I saw a very similar slide to this, but instead of water, it was actually tears. So you know how you have tears of joy, tears of sorrow, break. They put each one of them on a slide and under a microscope, and the ones that were of a higher vibration, like the joy and the happiness, they were very symmetrical, kind of like this top row that you have in this slide. And then the ones that were like anger and fear, the very low vibrational energy, were very disorganized and very very unorganized. It was very interesting, and to see this, it reinforces that study that I did. That was about 5 years ago. But it's kind of neat when things come together like that.
Yeah, definitely. So if you are in your brain having these positive or negative thoughts, it could very well be affecting your whole body this way, just as it affects the water, because you are water and your brain are the thoughts.
Right.
I should also point out that this was replicated by the Russian Academy of Sciences, where they also demonstrated that same positive effect that you see on the top level of that slide by exposing the water to the inside of a pyramid. You get that same positive effect. And that's one of the reasons why the pyramids were built. They were built as healing machines.
Yeah.
I believe that.
Yep.
They're a generator, in a way.
A generator, yeah.
I don't know if it's fact or fiction, but I think they just found pyramids on Antarctica.
Yeah, that's been known.
Yeah, they're all over the place.
Everywhere.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Amazing.
Now there's a guy by the name of Victor Schauberger. I don't know, Viktor, Victor Schauberger. There he is. And he spent a lifetime studying water, okay? He's a scientist. He found that the natural world water will always create vortices along its path. So it's natural for water to create a vortex. He learned that the spiral action in these vortexes is what structures water in nature, and that when subjected to modern man-made water treatment, it loses its structure. So again, like Sophia was just saying, it's your intent. What are you doing with the water? How are you manipulating it? And what are you doing to tap into it? His work eventually led him to believe that one can generate energy out of a vortex. This was way back when. So he describes it as an energy implosion. as opposed to an energy explosion. And this is showing the generator that he built to capture water coming out of a creek, spinning in a vortex. And he actually had another photo where he was turning on a light switch, and you could see the lamp come on the wall. So he actually generated the energy out of the water vortex.
Wow.
And is saying that this is what our hearts are doing when our heart is pumping that fluid through our system.
Wow, wow, wow.
And
Fascinating.
yeah. And then last but not least is Dr. Cowan. Let me escape out of here. Can you stop sharing?
I'll remove that. Yeah, you got it.
Thank you.
There we go.
And I got to come back in. I have to hit escape and come back in. All right. So thanks for your patience, everyone. But I wanted to get those tidbits out to you because they are kind of the fundamental thing behind this. He thought down here, there's a guy by the name of Dr. Thomas Cowan. He was an alchemist, not unlike Saint Germain and others who were looking into transmuting gold. And so Dr. Cowan came up with The Heart is Gold. And he wrote a book about the golden heart. And he said, one can generate energy out of a vortex. Yes, this is true. Gold, however, in its purest form, doesn't appear to be gold at all, but yet there are trace amounts of it in the human heart. Under the right condition, normal physical gold can be transformed into a fine white powder known as monatomic gold, which Dalibor is pretty much an expert on. And it's very strange, but it has very strange properties because it can enable you to levitate things. And it can disappear. It can disappear too. So it's super conductive. Yeah. So it might be what the ancient alchemists were really trying to do, to bring someone back to life, to levitate or reanimate the heart, or to even teletransport. We don't know. But one of the ways of turning metallic gold into monatomic gold is by putting it through a high-speed vortex. Did you know that, Dalibor? Because you don't use a vortex. There's a flash of light.
Yeah,
You have a flash of light?
Well, I do vortex my water that I drink when I mix it with vitamin C, and I do so in the presence of a magnetic field so as to induce a higher order of coherence into the water. And I do that several times a day while imbuing the water with positive thoughts. Any kind of positive thoughts.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, he believed that trace amounts of that gold in our blood are transformed into that monatomic gold naturally. So I know some of you take that gold and drink it as a supplement, but your body naturally generates it. The heart, he believes, naturally generates it. And they travel through the double vortices in the heart, creating what he calls the spark of life. Now, everybody in these studies that have looked at the heart know that first sign of life when the fetus becomes alive, it's not when it gets its brain, it's not when it gets his fingers and toes, it's when the heart starts pumping. That's the first sign of life. And so they're saying our soul, that's where our soul comes in. It comes into the heart. And that very first beat is life. It's our life, our true self in this container coming alive. And that that spark of life is in that heart. So it's always that monatomic gold that's being produced by the water, and the water is being. So you see how everything fits together?
Dalibor, Chloe's asking, is that the same as Ormus?
Yes, it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought so.
I've made my own Ormus many times, and it really does manifest some anomalous effects. But of course, convince yourself, make your own, and play with it. Do experiments with it, start
Yeah.
ingesting it, and see what it does for you.
hmm By the way, there's one more, and then we're done, and then the panel.
Sure, we can talk about
I
it. Go
wanted
ahead.
to make sure to thank Marsha Price for sharing that Facebook video about the
It
heart.
really sparked our discussion and
It
interest in
really,
this. Hmm.
thank you. It really did, because I did not know that the heart was just a spiral, and that it wasn't just a pump. It's much more than that. Now, there's an NIH publication that stated the other day the heart produces a significant electromagnetic field with each contraction due to the coordinated depolarization of myocytes, which are muscle cells, producing a current flow. So the myocyte muscle cell contains large numbers of mitochondria, which is what I think Lori was referring to a little while ago, that are responsible for the generation of high energy phosphates. Creatine triphosphate, adenosine triphosphate. You need it for contraction and relaxation. So, what makes myocytes different from other cells? They include 1 to 4 nuclei per cell. They have high mitochondrial organelle density within the cell that can produce ATP to generate energy. Unlike electrocardiograms, the magnetic field is not limited to volume conduction and extends outside the human body. They just don't know how far, and they don't know how to measure it. This is the NIH. What do you
And
make of that, Calibor?
the fact that they themselves published something like that is, I'd say, pretty incredible. But yeah, I read that document, and I've read a couple of other ones, and so I'll just go over that quickly right now, I guess.
Okay.
So the heart has its own logic that frequently diverges from the direction of autonomic nervous system activity. The heart behaves as though it has a mind of its own. Furthermore, the heart appears to be sending meaningful messages to the brain that the brain not only understands but also obeys. These messages can affect a person's perception, behavior, and performance. One of the neural pathways it uses to do so is the vagus nerve. The heart has its own type of logic and acts independently of the signals sent from the brain. The majority of fibers in the vagus nerve, which is the 10th cranial nerve, are afferent or ascending in nature. Furthermore, more of these ascending neural pathways are related to the heart than to any other organ. And this means that the heart sends more information to the brain than the brain sends to the heart. The heart was reclassified as part of the hormonal system in 1983 when a new hormone produced and secreted by the atria of the heart was discovered. This hormone, atrial peptide, nicknamed the balance hormone, plays an important role in fluid and electrolyte balance and helps regulate the blood vessels, kidneys, adrenal glands, and many regulatory centers in the brain. Even more intriguing, experiments suggest atrial peptide can influence motivation and behavior. It was later discovered the heart contains cells that synthesize and release catecholamines, norepinephrine, epinephrine, and dopamine, which are neurotransmitters once thought to be produced only by neurons in the brain and ganglia. More recently, it was discovered the heart also manufactures and secretes oxytocin, which can act as a neurotransmitter and commonly is referred to as the love or social bonding hormone. Beyond its well-known function in childbirth and lactation, oxytocin also has been shown to be involved in cognition, tolerance, trust, and friendship, and the establishment of enduring pair bonds. Remarkably, concentrations of oxytocin produced in the heart are in the same range as those produced in the brain. 60 to 80% of primary care doctor visits are related to stress, yet only 3% of patients receive stress management help. In a study of 5,700 middle-aged people, those with the highest self-regulation abilities were over 50 times more likely to be alive and without chronic disease 15 years later than those with the lowest self-regulation scores. Separate studies showed that the risk of developing heart disease is significantly increased for people who impulsively vent their anger, as well as for those who tend to repress this anger. The heart is the most powerful source of electromagnetic energy in the human body, producing the largest rhythmic electromagnetic field of any of the body's organs. The heart's electrical field is about 60 times greater in amplitude than the electrical activity generated by the brain. It is detectable up to 6 feet away. The nose, for example, can detect 1 molecule of gas, while a cell in the retina of the eye can detect a single photon of light. The results of these experiments have led us to conclude that the nervous system acts as an antenna, which is tuned to and responds to the magnetic fields produced by the hearts of other individuals. Power spectrum analysis of the signal averaged EEG waveforms showed that the alpha rhythm was synchronized to other persons' hearts. This alpha synchronization does not imply that there is increased alpha activity, but it does show that the existing alpha rhythm is able to synchronize to extremely weak external electromagnetic fields, such as those produced by another person's heart. A meta-analysis of 9 experiments that measured physiological responses occurred before a future event, a pre-stimulus response, that could not otherwise be anticipated through any known inferential process, revealed statistically significant results in 8 of the 9 studies in over 1,000 test subjects. Subsequent to this, a researcher, by examining 26 studies, also concluded that a clear pre-stimulus response in physiological activity occurred before unpredictable stimuli, despite the fact that there is not yet any known explanation for the mechanism for this finding. There is compelling evidence to suggest that the physical heart is coupled to a field of information not bound by the classical limits of time and space. This evidence comes from a rigorous experimental study that demonstrated the heart receives and processes information about a future event before the event actually happens. They found that not only did both the brain and heart receive the pre-stimulus information some 4 to 5 seconds before a future emotional picture was randomly selected by the computer, but the heart actually received this information about 1.5 seconds before the brain received it. So that shows you right off the bat that not only are we all intrinsically psychic, but that the heart is actually the most psychic organ in the body. And that if you listen to your heart, as the great men of old have said, if you listen to your heart, you can actually gain a better understanding of what's about to happen. And if you just rely on what's between your ears.
So
Funny you should mention that.
think with your heart and not your brain.
Yes.
Because really the heart's the one that's in charge, not the brain.
Exactly.
That's what I got out of all of this.
And
So
I had an
healing
exercise.
starts with the heart.
Yeah.
You did have an exercise. Go ahead, Teresa.
No, it's just that you helped me see that.
Yeah.
You picked up on that before I did. And I had a vision in a dream, and it was a purple blob. It was an energy plasma ball, and it had little, I don't know, arms and legs off of it. I kept getting the thought, this is Lemuria, because I've seen this before in visions of coming into this incarnation, into the matter, first as an energy ball, but it was more of an orb. And we were all floating and dancing and moving, and we didn't have form yet. And I've had that dream many, many, many times. And so this was a dream, but it was different, and it was an energy, a very loving, powerful energy, trying to get my attention in my dream. And I woke up. It woke me up, and it wasn't disturbing. It was just different. And I woke up, and you know how you sit on the edge of the bed to get your bearing, and something is there, and I look, and it's like I'm looking at it, and it's like right in front of me, but yet I know it's my dream. So I
Hmm.
think I was half asleep or having a paralysis. I don't know.
A carryover.
I think I was awake though, and I was seeing this because I could see it in front of my closet door, and when I moved, it moved with me, you know. So I'm like, okay. So then I fell back asleep, and I woke up the next morning really early, and I still had this sensation that something wanted to connect with me and talk to me. And when I woke up and I stood up, there it was again in my
Hmm.
room, and then it went away, dissipated. And I told Lori about it later, and I said, I don't know what this was. I haven't connected with. And so, long story short, between us, she and I found out it was Saint Germain
The
Hmm.
trying to get
violet
my
flame.
attention, the violet
Hmm.
flame.
Yeah.
And he gave me one heck of a download. And then we got information from Nate. And Lori says they're asking you to work with your heart more than your head.
Hmm.
And I said, then that's because of this show that's coming up. I was just inspired by all this visual. It influenced me. That's what it was. It influenced my dream. Well, no, I was nudged to work on this because I went to Lori with this, and Lori's like, "Yeah, let's do this. Let people see that we were both nudged to do this."
Hmm.
And then what they did is they got my attention in my dream the other night, and then they sent me a lesson. I had a conflict with a neighbor that was really bad. It could have been really bad. He's very violent, and my old self would have been ready to fight, but now I think with my heart instead of my head. But they were having me calm down because I was still, even though I responded to him with love, once I came inside, I was still getting worked
So
up, the old
because you were
patterns.
really angry and you were upset, your brain's
Yeah,
your heart, uh-oh, fight or flight, start pumping, okay, here's the adrenaline. So
yeah,
you had to calm down and center yourself and not get caught up in the emotion of it to
yeah,
calm your heart down. So I think people don't realize how powerful the heart is, and to think through the heart, to heal through the heart is really the message here from spirit. And that's where the divinity comes in,
yeah.
is
Hmm.
understanding how powerful you are as a human being.
And
To
Yeah.
think
they knew I wasn't
ask the
quite
heart
getting it.
first, yeah, and not the brain. Don't let the brain override, but go
Yeah,
directly to the heart space. Put your hand over your heart and ask whatever question is going on. You
Hmm.
know,
that's what they did. They had me.
Yeah.
Nathaniel, my
Mhm.
oversoul, Nathaniel said, "I want you to start breathing. I want you to breathe in really slow, and breathe out. And I want you to quiet the heart, quiet because the heart's beating. I want you to calm the heart, and then I want you to speed it up again. I want you to do more rapid breathing." So he had me do these series of breathing, and then he said, "Now I want you to picture three objects that you care about, something you really love. It could be object, place, a person, an event, but pick three and focus on each one and slow your breathing down, then speed your breathing up. Pick the next item, slow your breathing down." And they did it in a set of three. So there were three things that immediately popped in my head. There was an object, a person, and a place. And I just started visualizing the object, the person, but it wasn't so much as feeling how I felt about them.
They wanted you to
It's how
feel
you
love. They
feel.
wanted you to go to the love heart space
Yeah,
to
And you
override the
notice.
brain. And you notice a difference when you ask the heart first, or
yeah,
that you focus on that. And that's really the key here is
yeah,
whenever you're in those types of situations, ask the heart first. Is this mine or is this someone else's? What's
right.
going on here? And I'm telling you, the more you do it, the more you'll learn the heart is speaking to you as that second brain. Go ahead, Sophia.
When I'm in a bookstore or whatnot, and I'm really torn between two different like books or crystals, whatever. One thing that I've been doing for a long time is I'll put it in my right hand and put it over my heart
Mm,
and then I just
perfect.
kind of relax. And if I move forward, for me, that's a yes.
Mm-hmm.
And if my body
And
naturally
back is
feels
in.
like it's moving backwards, for
Yeah.
me, that's a not yet,
Mm-hmm.
because I don't embrace limitations with no.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because the universe is all about change and the verse is all about yes. So
Mhm.
True.
maintaining a similar frequency will generally work in a metaphysician's favor. And I also have another comment. I feel a lot of the topics and the discussions right now that have to do with the heart space and
Mm-hmm.
opening the heart space has to do with it being like the middle of the teeter totter as
Mm-hmm.
far as your chakras are concerned. But I also feel that focusing time, energy, meditation, and things like that focused on the heart can really help people unfold, because that's generally where your culture is going to get you. If they want to shut down your heart space. They don't want you to feel. They don't
Because
want you
that's where
to
your
be
power is.
engaged, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're not aware of your potential, the first thing lesser energies, in my opinion, will do is get you in a heart space and try to shut you down,
Mm-hmm.
because it renders you useless to raising the frequency on the planet, which I feel is part and part most people's responsibility. We're a team in that regard. But I also have read many books that talk about, like, the body has like three brains: the mind, the heart, and the gut. And
Mm-hmm.
I
Uh-huh.
feel that balance and making sure that you're focusing energy on all of your major centers.
So,
But
question: Do
yeah,
do you raise your vibration or your frequency through the brain or the heart?
all three of them: brain, heart, and gut.
There you go.
Because for me, the gut is very animalistic.
Yes.
Okay. The
Mm-hmm.
heart is what marries the animalistic part and the etheric part.
Yep.
That the heart is where those two connect. But I
Mm-hmm.
feel that all three parts and this reminds me a lot of the classic Camp Chesterfield spiritual anatomy,
Hmm.
because each energy center, each chakra has its own correlating energy field. And I feel the heart has a lot of importance, because we really energetically take a lot of hits to the heart. And actually, if you're going to get a hit, your receptive side of your energy signatures is actually in your back.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Mm-hmm.
that's why if you have a spirit approach you from the back, that's generally not a good sign.
Mm-hmm.
But
Like someone
making
coming up behind you and you're not
right.
sure what's going on. Yeah.
Well, in that sense as well, if
Mm-hmm.
you're healthy, grounded, balanced, you know your worth, you know
Yeah.
how to speak the affirmations
Right.
and
And that
vibrate
you're
the
a
frequency of
sovereign being.
love.
Yep.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But that
Yeah.
heart space needs to be open in order
Mm-hmm.
for you to embrace the concept of universal law, which includes the law of love, the law
Mm-hmm.
of progression. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of things that have been mentioned, not only in the opening video,
Mm-hmm.
but during this discussion. And I'm just, ye
Mm-hmm.
old notepad sitting here just taking notes.
Well
And
said.
yeah, I have to be very careful
Yeah.
what I say, because
Mm-hmm.
I'm evolving so quickly. What
Yes.
I embraced 5 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
Spirit's like, are you
Yeah.
really in that same
Boom.
place? And I'm
Try
like,
Mm-hmm.
6 months
dang it,
ago
here
for
we go.
some things.
Right. But
It moves really fast,
It
doesn't it?
does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like the
Truth
conversation.
Truth
Thank you.
Seeker
See,
had
what
a
a,
question. Dalibor Truth Seeker said, so does the secretion from the heart get affected when a person has heart surgery? And I don't know if it gets affected, but I think it affects the positive outcome. I think that
well,
secretions, and part of the secretions is how the heart heals us. Go
well,
ahead, Dalibor.
see. See, that's the thing. Any type of operation on the heart is a very risky proposition. It doesn't matter what age you are. If
Right.
you undergo an operation, any kind, whether you're 15 or 85, the risk is the same, and it's not good. And they've done experiments where they faked a heart operation on people versus actually performed it, and the
Like a
outcome was exactly
placebo
the same.
surgery?
Placebo surgery, and it was exactly the same.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
here's the thing that I wanted to contribute. One of the ways that you can follow your heart is to notice your heart, right? And usually,
Yeah.
if something like a concept or a proposition or an idea is in congruence with your higher self, your heart rhythm is going to go down, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That's your parasympathetic nervous system taking over,
Right
which
at
is
work.
controlled by your cerebral cortex.
Yep.
Whereas if it speeds up, that's your sympathetic nervous system taking over, which is your subcortex, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So basically, what you want to do under all circumstances is generally keep your heartbeat as low as possible, and that's also been demonstrated that people whose heartbeat is more than 73 per minute stand a higher chance of premature death than people whose heart rate is lower than 73.
Mm-hmm.
That's
Yeah.
kind of like the benchmark. If it's above 100 when you're resting, forget it. That's like a disease state. So,
Mm-hmm.
and you can consciously control your heart rhythm by just
Mm-hmm.
thinking calming thoughts and thinking thoughts that align with your higher purpose, and that'll get your heart rate down.
Go ahead, Sophia. You've got a comment.
Real quick, what Delabore was just saying kind of backs up where I'm at on my walk, is that the mind, the heart, and the gut, they're all connected. You can think yourself sick, you can think yourself well. There are legitimate problems that require medical intervention, and if you feel you have one of these, reach out to a medical doctor. So, and
Hmm.
I stay kind of quiet with topics like this because it really isn't something that I've focused on.
Mm-hmm.
But I love the fact that it brought the spiritual anatomy coursework forward, because that's something that's very important, to know what you are as
Mm-hmm.
an energetic
The
person.
whole of who you are, who you
Right.
truly are. Yes, I agree.
Yeah. Yeah.
Beautiful. Well
And it's
said.
also a congruence between like the brain and the heart, because it's just like you can map out the EEG, the heart rhythm, the shape of the curve. You can also
Mhm.
map out the EKG, the
Right.
electroencephalogram, right? And if those
Mhm.
two match in frequency, where you have a preponderance of the alpha, which is about 9 per second, and it aligns with the heart, then you're in alignment. Then you're like
Mhm.
psychologically and physically
You're in
tend
that
to be
neutral
healthy.
state, and that's
That
where you
neutral
want to come.
state.
You always want to
And
come from the neutral state and
and
not from the
also,
brain or.
yeah, and
Go ahead.
also since your heart is actually downloading information from other people's hearts,
Mhm.
and that magnetic field that it emanates extends about 6 feet out. That's one of the real reasons why they made us stay 6 feet apart, so that we couldn't
Yeah.
share our auric fields, so that
Yeah.
we couldn't literally come together.
Grandpa Brian, you want to speak on this? What's your thoughts and feelings
Uh,
about this?
yes, a lot of people don't know. There is actually 12 brains in the digestive system. So
Yep.
you have the 12 brains there, you have the brain in the heart, and then you have the brain in the head. So basically, I look at it, like she said, the gut,
Mm-hmm.
your emotions, and then the intellect. So depending on the situation, circumstances, or question, it's actually where that answer comes from. So, like, if it's a sympathetic question, yep, that's going to come from the heart. But then there's intellectual questions that, stuff that you've learned. So that information is actually going to come from your mind. I look at the body like all your cells are the servers, and your heart is the modem. So basically, all the information,
The brain's the CPU.
right? All the
Yeah,
information in the
pretty much.
universe
Yeah.
is stored away in your cells. All
Mhm.
you,
Hmm.
when I go within, I don't go to the head. I go into the heart, because
To the heart.
that's where all the information is. I also
Mhm.
heard if you lay the heart out, your Akashic records are written on that heart. So
Yes.
your Akashic records are in your heart. So
You know what's interesting that you mentioned that is I did an AI. In fact, it's behind me, but I'm going to show you this. This is an AI generated heart. This is fascinating. This is an AI generated heart. Look at how it's the strand and it's folded over, just as Teresa showed in that slide by the scientist who examined them and did the autopsy, so to speak, on the heart.
that's
Yep.
fascinating.
I thought it was.
Hmm.
Yeah. For AI
Yeah.
to pick that up, absolutely.
Yeah, interesting.
I noticed with this exercise, the importance of the lesson, I think, was by wanting you. You just said something, Brian, about you have to pay attention to the heart, or was it Dalibor? You have to pay attention to it.
Yeah, you have to pay
Be
attention. You
aware
should
of
pay
it.
attention to it.
Be very aware of it. And I think Lori's right. We run around using our brain to try to figure things out. Especially, she asked me a potent question the other day. She said, when you were healing your knee, when you were sending energy healing to your knee, how did you heal your knee? How were you doing that? How were you
Through my
trying to
heart,
heal?
through the
And
heart.
I said, yeah. And I said to her, well, I visualize. She goes, what do you mean? I said, well, I see the anatomy. I see the bone structure. I see the veins. I see the muscle tissue. I see the vein, the ligaments, and I could see if there's a blockage, and I could send it energy. And she goes, and so when by the time she was finished asking me the questions, I was getting a little flustered. I'm like, what are you just saying? Of course I'm feeling it in my heart. Of course I'm sending the energy. The reason it's not healing is because I'm trying to do it all from the head. Because I'm so
Uh-huh.
busy looking at it and visualizing it, I wasn't getting that. That's why they were telling me when Saint Germain and
Hmm.
Nathaniel were getting me to speed my own heart up and down. They were using heart math. I looked it up later. What does it mean when you speed your heart? There's something called heart math.
Hmm.
There's a
Yeah.
heart math institute out there that teaches you how to
Yes,
connect with your emotions and
right.
control your emotions by how
Hmm.
you control your heartbeat.
That's it.
So instead
Yep.
of meditating, you just you do use visualization, but instead of meditating, you're talking to the heart. You're not talking to the brain. You're not thinking through a map of what works and what doesn't work. You're feeling your way through it with the heart, and
Mhm.
you're letting the
Because
heart know. And
you're,
I was really sick this morning, and I had to use the heart. Or last
yeah.
night, I had to use the heart.
Go
Go
ahead,
ahead, Lori.
Brian. Brian, go
Yeah,
ahead.
like when you're using Reiki energy, that energy comes right in through the left hand and travels right through the
Through the
heart,
heart. I was just going
then
to ask
right
you
out
about
the
that.
right hand.
Yeah.
So, and
Hmm.
it's all about intent. I mean,
Hmm.
you do energy work with a pure heart. I mean, it's amazing.
And the
People
heart,
have,
yeah,
people
it'll
have told me
send,
they can almost pinpoint the time that I send them the energy because it's
there you
so
go.
focused and it picks
Hmm.
up all that beautiful loving energy as it passes through the heart and comes right out your hand.
Hmm.
So
It sends it to every organ, all of your cells, everything.
yeah,
That's where it all stems from, and that's where the control is for healing.
No, you're gonna think I'm crazy, but
Okay.
I'm not. I'm not. It's just God is my witness. It's the greater good is my witness here. Let me tell you something. Not only does the heart communicate everything else to the rest of your body, and it takes the leadership role. So I have the heart up here behind me, pulling the hand of the brain, taking it for a walk. Okay. I was sick to my stomach. I was having a really hard time. I couldn't sleep and I was having severe pains in my lower stomach. And I was literally in pain. And I just slowed my breathing because I remembered the exercise from the other day. I slowed my breathing and I was like, okay, heart. And the minute I tried using my brain out of habit, I would say maybe I need some Metamucil. Maybe I need to do this. Maybe I should do that. Stop thinking and just communicate and say to the heart, okay, I'm turning this over to you because I, as a human, I don't want to try to do anything that'll make it worse. I just want to trusting you to make this better for me. You need to help heal me. Please tell the rest of my body to heal. I was
Mm-hmm.
begging the heart to do that, and I was caught, and I was slowing down the breathing. I was going because of the pain, right? So I was using the breathing. Well, that slowed the heart down, and the heart took over and started making me feel better almost right away. Later on, the heart came back to me with a reason today. And not my higher self, or maybe it was, but my heart, because I was still feeling queasy, started to do a little pump, 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 action. And I closed my eyes, and the heart said, "Stop eating so many mushrooms. You never have been able to." I'm like, what? You've had 3 previous lives where you have reacted negatively to certain types of mushrooms. So your body's remembering that in this incarnation. Your DNA or your memory, is that true, Brian?
Oh
Do
yeah,
we,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
does that
All
carry
your
through physically?
Yes, it does. All your past lives, all that is encoded in your DNA. It's throughout your
Absolutely.
whole body.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hmm.
So your body knows. All you have to, don't go to the mind. The mind's cluttered with so much bullshit that we've learned through this lifetime and been told. You go inside to the heart, to the gut. That's when you get your real information.
Yep.
Well, let me tell you something. I pulled out my folder. I opened up my footlocker and I went into my health file. And I went all the way back to when I was experiencing seizures when I was 12 or 13. And I went in there in my 20s in college. And doctor said I should avoid mushrooms. I'd forgotten all that
Mm-hmm.
because I still eat mushrooms from time to time. It's the amount.
Mm-hmm.
I was mixing it into my ground turkey, and I was having mushroom turkey burgers, and I was fixing mushroom turkey, and it was making my body sick because my body, and I had forgotten all the medical history, but my heart talked to me and gave me an indication that it's something that's followed me through a couple of previous lives.
Mm-hmm.
So I love
Mm-hmm.
mushrooms, but I have to eat them in very small quantities.
Yeah.
Or they're gonna
So
make
what'd your brain
they make
think
me
of
sick.
the heart giving you the information? What did you think about that? How did you process that? Because it's amazing when you ask the heart and it
Well,
answers you and you're like,
well,
whoa.
the brain
Right,
went
right?
duh. The brain
Mm-hmm.
went duh. Like
Yeah.
it felt like good. You know how much the brain must look at us sometimes, and the brain must look at the rest of its body and go, finally you're doing something right, or finally you're making, the brain has to do all the work for us. So yeah.
Hmm.
Hmm.
So I guess it was happy. I don't know, because it stopped trying to take over.
Mm-hmm.
Isn't that an indication that it was happy? It
Yeah.
stopped trying to make me think about all these things. It just
Mm-hmm.
shut the hell up and let the heart take over. And
Yeah,
I
well,
was fine after that.
that's the way you should be talking to your heart, because rather than asking the brain, like, okay, what can I take to make the heart feel better? What can I eat to make the heart feel better? The minute you start asking those kind of questions, you're thinking like a drug addict. Okay, what kind of pill can I take to feel this or
Mm-hmm.
that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And
Yep.
most people unfortunately think like drug addicts, which is why heart disease is the number one killer in the Western world, and cancer is number two.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And both are caused by
Yeah. Yep.
discongruity between the emotions and the mind.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Well,
most definitely.
it's 10:37, so
I
I
was
just want
gonna
to ask
say.
you guys. I just want to ask you guys one more thing here. Everybody, chat room, people that are
Mm-hmm.
watching. especially the panel. The heart, I never knew. I always thought when we talk about love, I always came from a paradigm that it was given to us as a gift from God or from the angelic kingdom, that we were created through love. And that's why I only see people, the goodness in people first. I don't look for the bad in people. I look for the good in people. If they start doing things that are don't make me feel well or serve me, I just let them go, you know. But when it comes to healing, this is a whole paradigm shift for me, that our hearts experience things. It's not that the rest of the body doesn't, but the heart has the memory, and so the heart has the emotion. It understands the emotion, the intent. So the heart really is physically linked with what we think of conceptually as the concept of love. Because the heart's been injured, it knows injury. The heart knows what love is not. So when you're feeding your body good things, when you're doing good things with other people, it seems to me the heart knows the difference. And that's what it understands to be love. That true love is loving yourself and respecting yourself enough to take care of your body in a certain way. The heart will work with you, the heart will work with the brain, but it was pleased that I let go of the brain. It was pleased that I let it do its job. And it helped me within minutes when I did that. So we're the ones telling the universal consciousness, the all that is, what love really is.
Mm-hmm.
And so I would say, ask the panel, what if you have a chronic condition or a repetitive condition that keeps coming back? You've done everything you can to heal that condition. You've listened to all of your doctors. You've taken all of your medications. I'm thinking of not only some of the chronic problems members of my family have had, but other people in our community where they're fed up. They've done everything the doctors have told them because it's all the logical stuff, see? It's all the thinking and the brain stuff.
Well, they're literally fed up, which means that
They're
the
fed up
source of the
because they've done,
matter could be what they're eating.
right, it could be.
Well,
It could be
also,
any number
too,
of things.
spiritually speaking, it does travel into the blood. So some of these things you do choose before you come into this life to experience what it has to offer you. And that is done through the blood and linear through your ancestral line. That's where some of that comes from. But Louise Hay talks about healing cancer, just as Steve was talking about how he healed his cancer through the heart. She healed her cancer as well. So there's so many factors. You've got to look into the past lives thing. You have to find out ancestral lines. All of that stuff comes together before you can really determine how you're going to go about healing that. But
Unresolved karma in this life.
exactly. That's exactly my point. Yep.
Okay.
So that is going to be part of it.
And Brian, when you're doing the healing, when you're doing Reiki healing or your scalar, you do scalar too?
Every once in a while, but I stick more to Reiki because that's what I know the best.
And that's energy healing. So, and that's,
Yeah.
So
that's through the heart.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was
That's
gonna say,
how you send it out.
how are you working with the heart? Are you using your heart to influence their heart? How are you doing this? How are you transmitting that information to them? Are you doing a heart-to-heart connection between your heart and their heart?
It depends on what I'm doing. There's a lot of times where I actually really get into the cellular level and actually talk to the cells and start reprogramming the cells.
I've done that.
So there's different. it just depends on the situation. But there again, when I go out and do it, I'm first words come out of my mouth. I'm sending healing and love to Lori. I'm sending healing and love to Lori. And then I'll say that 3 times, and then I go into what I'm going to heal. And then I start talking to the cells. But it's always done with love.
Yes.
That is the purest form of healing is love.
That's
So
really the keystone.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you say,
it is
Brian?
the key. Yes, it
That
is.
is
It
the
is the
keystone, isn't
keystone of healing is love.
Mm-hmm.
Doing it with a pure heart.
You got it. You got it.
What's Gazakov is on to something here. He's had 2 comments here. His first one was he put his in my meditation this morning, I put my heart on a scale, brain on the other, and then you will see which is the heaviest. Mine was balanced equal and was quite surprised. Then down below, he says, where'd it go? It was a meditation. Go ahead, Lori.
It was a meditation that I was doing, did not know to the end when they told you where was your heart and mind. So maybe everyone should try it and see where theirs is. That's exactly what we're saying here, guys.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
is the whole premise of the show tonight, is to get you to understand the two. Unfortunately, some people just didn't get that tonight, but that's okay. They're on their path and it's all good. But if somebody got something out of it, then that's all that matters to spirit. That's all that matters to us as the A7 group, is that it gives you something to think about and to expand your brain, open your mind, but also accept the heart. That is the center of your being.
And this is spot on, Lady Spitfire. I have to tell myself 2 or 3 times a week, you feel okay? Don't listen to the voice. I don't feel good. Yeah, be in the I am presence is what Saint Germain was teaching me.
Absolutely.
In fact, he gave me a couple here to share with you, and then I'll let Lori close it out.
We're just going to go to that last comment that you've got, and we're going to end the show here. No, go ahead and you can do that, and then we'll end the show there.
Okay, hang on a minute.
Okay.
These.
Yeah, Steve, that's good. Always get something out of this. That's awesome. I'm really happy to hear that.
Here we go.
That means all our time and energy is for something good, and you're getting it. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, here we go. This is transmitted from Saint Germain, and I was inspired by Saint Germain, and I put it in wordings. They're like dissertations, but they're affirmations. So, and this is what I got out of this whole thing. I don't know how to explain this to all of you. Lori knows, but this is what I got out of these past 2 weeks, doing this homework, doing this research, and coming to the table, trying to bring all this into the forefront, into my own mind, so it would make sense. Because it's a wholly different way for me to look at the heart. And it's really helped me be a better person this week to myself and to my neighbors. But anyway, here's the affirmation. I am the divine light source. I am the heart and soul of creation. I am the loving representative and emissary of the Godhead within. I am my own game controller. I am the healer of my own physical being. I am limitless. I am the eternal flame. I am eternal love. I am you, and you are me. That was a whole new way of looking at things, because I finally said what I've been afraid to say or programmed not to say all these years. I am the divine light source.
Mm-hmm.
We all are, because we're all parts of it. It's
Yes.
all that oneness. And
Mm-hmm.
so I can heal. I have the divine ability to heal. I just work with my heart to heal. I saw it happen today.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw it happen to the small toe. The pain just went away.
Mm-hmm.
I've been having the hardest. So I have been through a huge transformation here of thought. I only wish it for others too.
Mm-hmm.
Good luck. Good luck.
Mm-hmm.
It's really, this is important. I think Greg Braden and Bruce Lipton and some of the others are very excited about this, because they see it as a shift in consciousness, that your consciousness has changed and evolved to the extent that you can now accept your own Godhead, your own divinity, in such a way as not to offend other people. We're not denying the existence of a high power. We're not denying the existence of a godly construct. What we're saying is that we're part of it, in the same way that the Christians have always said, we're all one family and we're all different trees. We're all branches of the tree of God,
Use the
godliness.
power you gave yourself when you came into this life.
Yeah.
It's that
Mhm.
simple. Yeah.
Yep.
All right,
So
you
anyway,
guys. Well, listen, next week is 4th of July. We won't be here next week. We'll see you the following week. If you're new to the channel and you're watching, please subscribe, get the algorithms up. We really appreciate it. Also, like, share, all that good stuff that YouTube likes us to do. We really appreciate all of you being here tonight and listening intently and taking it all in. Hope you all got something out of it. Thank you for the patience and for being the fine souls that you are. Thank you, everyone on the panel, Sophia, Brian, Dalibor, and Teresa. You all are the best brothers and sisters anyone could have or ask for. So thank you for being that.
yeah.
Thank
And
you.
you guys enjoy your 4th of July. Please be safe and please come from a heart space when you're dealing with people and
Yeah.
see what the difference makes for you. Okay.
Thank you,
On that
Dalibor,
note,
for
yes,
Yep.
peace out to
Yeah.
everyone. Love and appreciation for all of you. Take care and we'll see you again soon.
Later.